Welcome everybody, Pavel here. Today I have a really special guest who is a Rob Greenfield, who is a born activist and adventurer. He biked across America to spread the good by doing crazy challenges, funded several companies and funds that are aiming to create sustainable and equal future. He even dumpster dived to show people how much perfectly good food is wasted. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Rob. It's great to have you here. It's a pleasure to talk with you on about food waste. It's very, very interesting for us, and I bet for a lot of people here. So, yeah, welcome. Before we'll start, I want to ask you what actually made your change course of your life. How's that happened that you get involved in the zero waste and social issues?
I mean, basically, to me, a lot of it is just an absolute no-brainer. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to be wasting so much food, let alone while people are hungry. It doesn't make sense that anybody wouldn't have their basic needs met in a country where everybody can have their basic needs met. So I just always kind of thought it was absurd that some people would have so much while other people would have so little, when there is enough resources for everybody. And I guess that I didn't always act on that, and what really changed me was in 2011 about watching a lot of documentaries and reading a lot of books, and that's kind of what really inspired me to change my life and try to be a positive example for other people and to support causes that help other people and the environment.
Regarding the food consumption, can you tell us how big the food waste issue is, for example, in America?
Well, in the United States, we throw away about $165 billion worth of food per year. That's with a B, billion.
$160 billion. $165
billion, which is, to give you a little bit of perspective, that's more than the budgets for America's national parks, public libraries, veterans health care, all of the federal prisons, the FBI, and the FDA combined. So it's a huge number. We waste enough food to feed an entire American population. So the population of America is about 320 million, and we waste enough food to feed close to another 300 million Americans.
Okay, so how's that happening? Of course, I watched your TED speak, and so I know some answers about those questions, but if you could share some with the dreamers who are going to listen to this podcast, and how's that happened? Why this is so big number?
Well, food waste is happening everywhere pretty much that food exists. So I focus on food waste at grocery stores, but the truth is that food waste is happening everywhere. It's happening at the farms, at the manufacturers, at the distributors, at the grocery stores, restaurants, and caterers, at people's homes, at schools. Everywhere that food is served, in general, food is being wasted. So that's where the massive numbers come from, because it's happening everywhere. But the biggest waste of all actually is at the farms, and it has nothing to do so much with farmers, but the people that they're selling the food to. So, for example, grocery stores have ridiculously high cosmetic standard, and when something doesn't just look right, it could be the wrong size, the wrong shape, the wrong color, grocery stores won't accept it, and often they have a contract with the farms that it's an exclusive contract. If we don't buy this, you can't sell it, which means you have to waste it. Or the farmers just, last minute are canceled on, and so they have 1 million pounds of spinach and they don't know what to do with it because they were canceled on by the grocery store. So that's actually where the biggest waste happens, at the farm, due to strict cosmetic standards by grocery stores. But again, it's happening everywhere. So the average American wastes 30% of the food that they purchase. So as individuals, we waste a ton. Restaurants waste a ton. Grocery stores waste a ton. It's schools are wasting a ton. It's everywhere.
Probably the decreasing this completely will be impossible. But how do you think how much we could decrease the food waste on the long-term run?
Well, if right now we're wasting about half of all the food that we produce, I would say that with very little effort, we could turn that instead of half into a quarter easily, and that would be billions, like $80 billion worth of food. But I personally think that food waste is inevitable. You're going to have some wasted food, but 10% rather than 100% is reasonable. So to waste 10% of food would be actually, reasonable in my mind.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back to this question.
However, I should say, when I say wasted, that means composted or fed to animals, not thrown in the garbage. Zero food should be thrown in the garbage. Zero food should be in the landfills. And that bit that is wasted is food that's not fit for human consumption that should be used to regenerate nutrients to grow more food with.
Rob, my question is, when you bike across the country and dive in the dumpsters, what was the most shocking thing that you find out about people's food waste?
I would say the most shocking thing is that it's happening everywhere, every day, all the time. So it's never like one grocery store dumpster, the amount of food or what they're throwing away that's shocking. It's that every town that I go to, it's there. It's most dumpsters that I open up have wasted food in them, and most towns that I go to, I'm able to find more food than most people would imagine.
Let's say there's a lot of people who actually want to stop the food waste and they understand the problem. Also, I want to touch upon this. There's this common belief that people think that the grocery stores, they cannot give food away because they might be sued, but it's not true, right? This is just not true at all.
Correct. So there's this total misconception that grocery stores are liable if someone was to get sick off the food that they donate. But the truth is that the Good Samaritan Food Donation Act was passed in 1996, over 20 years ago, and this protects grocery stores and waives them of all liability if someone was to get sick, as long as they donate it to a nonprofit. And the crazy thing is that not a single grocery store has ever been sued, according to a University of Arkansas School of Law study. So not only are they protected, but there's no evidence, there's no case out there that shows that a grocery store, restaurant, food catering program has ever been sued. On top of that, there's thousands of food rescue programs in the United States that will pick this food up and give it to people in need. So it's very, 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 very easy for most grocery stores to start a food rescue program if they care.
So exactly. So what's happening? They actually don't have this food waste. They just don't care, and that's it?
Well, they do care, but they mostly care about money. That's what they care about the most. So most businesses in the United States practice the single bottom line, and that's profit. But a new form of business is called the triple bottom line, and that's people, planet, and profit. And so these businesses are basically practicing one bottom line. They're doing everything just to make sure that they're making as much money as they can. And for them, wasting food is just part of doing business. Now, there's a lot of evidence that shows that actually being less wasteful will mean you are more profitable. However, the capitalistic way of doing business has a lot of waste built into the profit margins, and that's kind of it's one of the standard ways of doing business that's just accepted, and not just accepted, but in many ways glorified in the United States.
So do they think, like, for example, if they're going to give a food away, so the other people will not have to buy, and so they will not generate more profit? This is their belief, or I'm trying to understand what's going on there.
It's a lot of different things. So there is an element of that. Here's the thing: is though dealing on an individual level with things tends to be more time consuming than doing things in a more of a manufacturer style assembly line style. So they have certain systems in place that make them as efficient as possible. And anytime something goes outside of that system, which is they teach people to do things the exact way, and they have the way of doing things made in mass amounts. And the thing is, dealing with food that would possibly go to waste is a little more challenging because you're taking like 10% of these oranges and a handful of these apples, and then a case full of these boxed pizzas, and then you have to deal with those individually, which is much less efficient than when you're dealing with huge amounts of things. So for them to throw it away is more convenient, and they build that into the profit margin to have a certain amount of waste, so it works. So yeah, I mean, really, a lot of it does come down to effort. And then, to be honest, also a lot of grocery stores think that they are liable. A lot of grocery stores, just like a lot of people, don't know about the Good Samaritan Food Act, so they actually think that they're liable. About 50% of grocery stores surveyed give the reason of liability as the reason that they don't donate. That can either be because they're lying and they're just using that to get out of it, because that's a common way to get out of things in the States, or they genuinely don't know. And then, as you said, there is also a more cynical reason with some places, and that is they actually believe that if they give away food for free, then they are possibly making someone not have to be a customer. But I don't think that's the case with most. I think that's the case with some, and that's definitely a much more cynical outlook, but I think that is a true outlook for some places.
Thank you for that. So, Rob, we have the goal to actually decrease the food waste around 30%, and we want to inspire people to meet this goal, and we think it's very possible. So, could you give us a piece of advice what people should do, or how we could get around this to really reach that goal of decreasing the food waste?
So I think the biggest thing that anybody can do is lead by example. So if they don't think that grocery stores or restaurants or hotels or food caterers should be wasting food, then they should look at their own trash can and make sure they're not wasting food, and look in their fridge and make sure there's not food that's going bad in there. And so by leading by example, that makes you a much more powerful person in being able to affect other people to also make positive changes. So simple ways to do that as an individual are, really appreciate your food and make food a priority. So food waste comes down in part to a lack of appreciation for it. So making it a priority and appreciating it is a big thing. One way to do that is grow your own food, because when you grow it yourself, you are much less likely to waste it because you put so much effort into it. Support local farmers who sell directly to the customers. So going to the farmer's market or directly to the farm, they waste a lot less food because they're connected to their food. Another thing is buying food. Rather than going to the store and buying huge amounts of food, buy your food multiple times per week. So that way you have less food that can go to waste. So get your fruits and vegetables multiple times per week. And that comes down to prioritizing food. It's an important thing, and we should all pour of our energy and effort into it. And then if you want to be proactive with the big wasters, like the grocery stores, you can contact the grocery stores and tell them that you'd like to see them not wasting food. The hashtag I use is donate, not dump. So contacting stores and being proactive and saying, hey, are you guys donating your food to a food rescue program? If not, look up the food rescue programs and the food banks in your town, so that you can say, well, here's the nonprofit that can accept food. You're protected by the Good Samaritan Food Act, so let's you should do this and encourage them.
So definitely, just to let you know, we interviewed Kira Sakano, who's managing the first in the world zero waste city, which is Kamikatsu, Japan. And we actually nailed down 34 categories, how the people could not only reduce, but reuse and recycle, as you know, those three are. So we have an entire system how to reduce the waste and how to recycle the not only the food, but entire household management, trash and things like that. I'm wondering, or I'm interested in the most, the things, what we could do to be proactive. I get that we need to start from ourselves, and I completely agree about this one. And when this is done, how we as a community could have the biggest impact on the corporations, or maybe, so I understand the biggest waste where it's happening on the corporation side, right? So how we can influence the corporations, or how we can influence to actually change that?
So definitely the one is, the biggest one is being proactive, talking to the grocery stores and finding out if they are donating their food. And so the hashtag I use is donate, not dump. Just talk to them and say, hey, do you have a food rescue program?
Okay, but should we send them a letter? Should we tweet them? Should we write them on Facebook? What is the most efficient way? Let's say if you could have 100,000 people community and you would say them, okay, do this one. What it would be? And what grocery you would probably start from?
Absolutely, the best thing you can do is you can go in and see them in person, because it's very easy to ignore a tweet or an email or a Facebook message. But when they have actual customers or potential customers in their store expressing that this is important to them, they're much more likely to listen and to make positive changes. So going in and talking to the manager at the store is the most powerful thing you can do. But secondary to that, contacting them through their website, through social media, or emailing them as well.
And which corporation you would start from, or it really doesn't matter, and everybody should check in their city their own favorite grocery store?
Yeah, be proactive in your community. So talk to whatever grocery stores are in your town. It could be the big box marts, or it could be the little local grocery store. It's all about, I think, making human connections with the people who are in charge of these things. So whoever's in your, the grocery stores that you, I would say start with the grocery store that you shop at, and the grocery stores in your community.
Let's say today I want to do something, and of course, let's say I already took care about my food waste. So I'm going to the store and I'm asking that, I would love to speak with the manager, and the manager is coming and I say, hey, I would like to ask, are you donating a food? And I don't know, they would respond yes or no. If no, I want to probably let them know that something like this program on the local nonprofit exists and they could donate, something like this. Or I want to be very specific in what actually we as a citizens, as a people could do today. And I even would like to know how and what should we say?
Well, definitely the more educated you are, the better you're going to be able to do. So you want to tell them about the Good Samaritan Food Donation Act. You could actually have that printed out and show it to them. Okay. There's also the University of Arkansas School of Law study that shows that not a single place has ever been sued, so you could have that information as well. You could also have some resources for them. My TED Talk, for example, is a good resource because that in 17 minutes or so explains the problem and the solutions. So that's a great thing. I also have another webpage, which is robgreenfield.tv/food waste solutions. It has a lot of the solutions of what people could do. And then, yeah, definitely getting involved with the food rescue programs in your town, because they might need volunteers. And if they have volunteers, that might mean that they could do a lot more food rescues. But definitely getting involved with the food rescue programs that already exist. And then another thing is creating your own food rescue, which I have a guide on how to do that.
Okay, so in the 5 steps, I basically, first of all, what I'm doing, I'm educating myself. Second of all, I'm taking care of my household. And when I am educated, I can print those 2 documents, and I also can have the TED Talk of yours. And I'm going to talk with the manager of the grocery I'm shopping with. I can leave them those documents and show them, hey, this is okay, and there is no danger of actually donating food. And probably in my process of education, I could check out some non-profits who actually have the food rescue program. Could you tell us in few how to actually start our own food rescue program?
I can't sum it up in 3 steps. You have to start a nonprofit, and then set up the. You have to start a nonprofit, then you have to set up the relationships with grocery stores, and then find the places that you're going to bring the food to. It's a bit of work. It's something that you have to be really dedicated to wanting to do.
Okay, so one more time, repeating after you. So the first step, it's establishing, of course, non-profit. When I have that done, it's basically building relationship with the groceries and finding the place to store. And after, if I have, for example, the food rescue program, what I'm doing with this food which is rescued.
So then you got to get it. You got to get it to people in need. So you're going to have to find the organizations to partner with that distribute food to people in need. It could be, food banks that you're delivering it to, or it could be, at-home deliveries to elders who can't get out of their house, or after, youth programs, but basically getting food to people that food is secure.
Okay, so my very last question, for example, let's say I do have in my household a lot of food which left. How should I treat it, and what should I do with it?
Once you've bought food, you should just eat it. That's the best thing you can do. Because once you just have a little bit of food here and a little bit of food there, it's a lot harder to distribute it. But I guess if you really care and you have food and you can't eat it, find somebody who can. So you can call up your friends and see if they'll eat it. You can have a dinner party and invite people over to eat it. You can hit the streets and give it to people. Just walk the streets, find people that are hungry on the streets or that could put it to good use. And if the food is bad, if it can't be eaten by a person, then feed it to animals or you can compost it.
So, very, very last question, Rob. How do you think, how many of the corporations or how many people we would need to involve to influence the corporations to really decrease this food waste around 30%?
I don't have an answer to that, but I will say that, one person in this movement can make a huge difference, because if you just set up one relationship with a grocery store, that could literally mean feeding hundreds of people. The nice thing about this is that you can make a huge difference in the lives of many people and a big environmental difference, which is great. But as far as numbers as to how many people it would take to tip this over the edge, I don't know.
Okay, Rob, and I also know you have some book, right? Could you tell me where the people can, if they are interested more in your journey, because it's pretty cool, and there's some cool stuff going on your website. I've been there. There's really cool, and it's really well put up together. Could you tell us some more if someone wanna get deeper into your story or into things you are doing, where they can buy a book, where they can find you? What else how they can cooperate with you?
Yeah, so my website's just my name. It's robgreenfield.tv. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just type in my name, Rob Greenfield. And then my book is called Dude Making a Difference. Just type that into Google and you'll find it. You can read that. It's a story of my bike ride across the country where I actually got inspired about food waste. Became a food waste activist. And then I have a TV show on Discovery Channel right now around the world you can watch. It's called Free Ride. Depending on what your country in, it might be a different name. It's not playing in the United States, but it's playing around the world, and that's called Free Ride.
Okay, so the last sentence, what is this Discovery program all about? It sounds really interesting. I would love to personally check it out for myself.
United States and both countries around the world, and it's about island in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, any pocket on bridge and travel 7,000 miles across the continent of South America with no money, relying on the kindness of others as well as ingenuity and resourcefulness
Thank you very much for finding this time, even in being in Guatemala, and talking with me. I already listed the few really cool things from our conversation, and we would definitely will be able to make from this some actionable steps for the other dreamers who want to change the world. So thank you for being inspiration for the lots of people. Good job, Rob. I really admire. Well done. And I know you're still on the way of your endeavors. So yeah, this is what I want to say.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and thank you for all that you're doing. And I think you're going to do some great things. So keep on inspiring people.
Thank you, Rob. Have a beautiful day. And let's probably we're going to meet somewhere on the dreamer's journey.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye bye.